Hey, I'm Corey with AvidMax, and today we're going to tie the Bever's Better Buckskin fly. This fly we're going to tie on the TMC 3761. You can tie this in a 12 to 16 size. Today we're going to tie it on a size 14. For thread, we're going to use Uni A-Dot black. We are going to also use the large size of the pearlescent tinsel. That's kind of a flashback type material. We're going to use brassy size copper wire. For the head area, we are going to use the ostrich herl in black and also peacock herl, a couple strips of that. And then the main body of this fly, we use a chamois material, and that chamois material will be cut into thin strips so that we can make a nice tight body for this fly. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to prepare the chamois material for the buckskin. And you can use this for any buckskin pattern. I have the chamois material from the auto parts store here. And first of all, I want to point out that there's two different ways that you can cut this. If you pull the chamois material this direction, it kind of gives a little bit more than if you pull this way. And you want to pull the direction where it pulls a little bit less. So you basically want to be cutting against the grain. If you cut with the grain, then once you have a thin strip, it'll pull apart really easily. So if you're not sure, cut one strip both directions and then see which one pulls apart harder. It's harder to pull apart. That's the direction, that's the one that you want to use. So we're going to start by laying this out as flat as possible, and I already have a pretty good straight edge here. So I also have a cutting board underneath here so I don't scratch up any tables. I have a ruler to help us get a straight edge, and I like this triangular ruler so that I can push down on the top and my fingers don't get in the way when I'm slicing the material. And then I have a fabric cutter here that I got at a fabric store, just a local fabric store. Okay, so when you get this straight edge lined up, you want to make this as straight as possible, and you probably want to cut a few different widths of material. The rule of thumb is you want the strip to be about a third the width of the hook gap that you're using. So that's pretty thin material. And even if you don't have it uniform all the way across the cut, that's okay because you won't use the whole thing at one time. So I'm going to just get a straight edge here. And I'm going to push down, and we'll start here. Just slice right up. We got a nice strip. If I pull on that, that's not going to break apart easily on me. So you can see on this strip I have a couple of different widths here, and I can use that for a couple of different flies. But now that I have a really nice straight edge, I'm just going to back the ruler off just a little bit and get a nice thin strip here. Oops, missed a part down there. And now we have a nice thin strip ready to tie with. All right, so here we go. So this pattern was created by Bever, a modification of the original buckskin and then the better buckskin after that. So we're going to lay a thread base here. I'm going to come back, trim my thread, and we'll come back up to where we started. Get the shank of the hook well covered there. And then I'm going to grab my copper wire. This is the brassy size. I'm going to tie it in on this side of the hook. We're going to try and keep a nice smooth body. Although you won't see this because we're going to wrap it over with that buckskin when we're done here. Get that wire wrapped all the way back. Then we're going to bring our thread back forward again. And we're going to tie in our pearlescent tinsel. This is for the flashback material. I'm going to start with the tinsel a little bit on this side of the hook. And one thing that I like to do is I like to spin my bobbin counterclockwise, and that makes it so that when I put this thread up, it kind of pulls that thread to the left, and that way I can position it exactly where I want it. Let me try that again. Snug that back a little bit. It's kind of fighting me here a little. You want to try and keep that tinsel on the top of the hook as we wrap back, because you want it to come straight down the middle of the back when we wrap it forward later. We're just going to bring that back to where we started. That wire. All right, so now we can tie in our buckskin material, and I have my buckskin kind of tapered down to a little bit of a point here because you don't want a big bulky starting point at the back of the fly. So I've trimmed it a little bit, spin my bobbin, and then we're going to capture that and tie it in, and try and tie it in so that you're not creating too much bulk here. And we'll tie that down, and then we're going to bring our thread back, and we're going to stop at about the 75% point of the hook here, 3/4 of the way up, and because that's where we're going to stop the body. So now I'm going to take the buckskin and I'm going to twist it, and I'm going to make a nice little tight rope out of the buckskin. And by doing this, you actually are creating a much more durable fly, because buckskin by itself can be a little bit weak and can take on a lot of water and fall apart pretty easy. But when you do this rope method, it kind of makes it a nice durable fly. So I'm just going to go one wrap in front of the next, and I might have to twist it a little bit as I wrap it up the body. Keep that rope shape. And once I get back up to the thread, I'm going to capture that. Get a couple wraps there. And the goal here is to not have a big bulky end point either, because we're going to tie in some other materials here. So I'm going to try and trim that as close to the hook shank as I can. And then I'm going to tighten that down a little bit. At this point, we're going to wrap our thread all the way up to the hook of the eye of the hook, and then back again. So now we have a little bit of a base there. Okay, so we're going to start this part by tying in our ostrich herl, and I'm just going to get a little bit of a tip section here at the end of the herl, and we're going to tie this in just to get it attached correctly. And then I'm going to tie in my peacock herl, and the peacock herl is basically just an under part. It goes underneath the ostrich herl as we finish off this head section. All right, so I'm going to put in a little bit of a half hitch just to make sure that my thread doesn't slip off here when I'm wrapping my peacock. So we're going to take the peacock herl, and we're going to give enough wraps to get to the front of the hook, and we will capture that. A couple wraps should be all it takes, and then we'll trim that off. Okay, now I'm going to wrap the ostrich herl, and we are going to start wrapping that forward. We're going to get 2 or 3 good wraps on here. This can be a little bit tricky because you got a lot of stuff going on at the head section here now. So I'm going to capture that. And then we can trim off our ostrich herl. And we have a nice little bushy head section. So then we're going to wet our fingers a little bit, and we're just going to push down that herl just to kind of flatten it out a little bit. We're going to bring our tinsel forward. We'll capture that tinsel right behind the eye of the hook here. Couple good wraps. Make sure that's right on top of the back of the fly. Trim that off. And now we're going to wrap our copper wire forward. Start here. Lost my grip. And you want to do maybe 3 or 4 evenly spaced wraps. And keeping that tinsel in place. Once we get up to this part, we're just going to kind of go underneath all of that herl in the front, one wrap, and then we're going to capture that copper wire at the front. A couple good wraps, and we should be able to helicopter this off. Okay, and then we will whip finish. Try not to crowd the eye of the hook there too much. Make sure you can still put some tippet through there. There's our whip finish. Snip our thread off. Fluff everything up. Maybe trim this a little. And then we can see how we did here. You can see that wire underneath a little bit, but it should be pretty pokey. So after adjusting the peacock curl with a bodkin and pulling it out from under the wire a little bit, there's our finished fly.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. If you have a fly you'd like to see us tie in the future, leave us a comment below. For more fly fishing and outdoor related videos, subscribe to the AvidMax YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you out there.
My heart over my mind, I'm not over